Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Oh, it's great to be back.
This time we're tackling a topic I think we can all relate to, time management.
Absolutely. It never seems like there are enough hours in the day, right?
Right, and we've gotten so many requests from you guys to dig into this topic.
It seems like everyone's feeling overwhelmed these days.
Yeah, swamped with tasks and responsibilities, to-do lists a mile long.
It's tough to know where to even begin sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's our mission today, to sift through all the amazing resources you've sent us and pull out those golden nuggets of wisdom.
We want to give you some practical strategies you can actually use to reclaim your time and boost your productivity.
And the really cool thing is that a lot of the books and articles you send us all kind of circle back to the same core idea.
Yeah, they all touch on this fascinating dynamic of how work gets assigned and managed.
Ooh, that's juicy. I'm already intrigued.
And that brings us to our main text for today.
Drum roll, please.
The 1-Minute Manager Meets the Monkey by Ken Blanchard, William Oncken Jr., and Hal Burrows.
Monkeys. Okay, I'm hooked. Tell me more.
Well, the monkey is this brilliant metaphor that Oncken uses to represent all those tasks and problems that can kind of take over our lives.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Yeah.
So what's the typical scenario Oncken describes in the book?
Picture this. You're a manager. You're drowning in work. You're putting in crazy hours, sacrificing personal time, feeling like you're doing the work of two people, and yet you're constantly behind.
I think we've all been there at some point.
Right. It's a universal struggle. So this manager goes to his boss for help, hoping for some guidance, some relief.
And what does the boss say?
Basically, you got to figure it out yourself. Tough love, right?
Wow, that's rough. I mean, I get it. It's important to be resourceful, but still a little support would be nice.
Exactly. And that's where the 1-Minute Manager comes in. He sees this poor manager struggling, and he diagnoses the problem as monkeys.
Monkeys, so those tasks and problems are literally jumping on his back and weighing him down.
Exactly. Onken's idea is that every task, every problem has a next move, and that next move is the monkey.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this metaphor works. But how did those monkeys end up on our backs in the first place?
Well, it can happen in all sorts of sneaky ways. But Oncken has this great example in the book about a manager walking down the hallway.
Uh-oh, I have a feeling I know where this is going.
Right. He's just minding his own business, when suddenly an employee pops up with a problem.
Sounds innocent enough.
Totally. But watch what happens. The employee starts explaining the problem, and the manager, being the helpful guy he is, gets drawn in.
Oh, no, I've been there.
Right. Before you know it, he's knee-deep in a task that wasn't even his to begin with.
And then comes the killer phrase, let me think about it and get back to you.
Bingo. With those seemingly innocent words, the monkey has officially leaped from the employees back onto the managers.
Wow. It's amazing how such a subtle interaction can have such a huge impact.
Right. And what's really interesting is that in that moment, the roles have completely reversed. The manager has become the worker now responsible for figuring out that next move. And the employee is now the supervisor just waiting for a progress report.
It's like a monkey magic trick. The monkey disappears from one person's back and reappears on another's.
Exactly. And that's how we end up feeling overwhelmed. We're carrying all these monkeys that aren't even ours to begin with.
Okay, so I'm definitely guilty of picking up some stray monkeys in my time.
I think we all are. Especially those of us who are natural problem solvers.
Huh.
We want to be helpful. We want to be seen as the go-to person.
But that can backfire big time.
Yeah, and that's where Oncken makes this really important distinction. He says there are monkeys that rightfully belong to the manager.
Like strategic planning or team leadership.
Exactly. And then there are monkeys that should be handled by the team.
Like completing individual tasks or solving day-to-day problems.
Right. It's all about knowing the difference and setting those boundaries.
So how do we do that? How do we become more monkey-aware and stop those pesky creatures from jumping on our backs?
Well, that's where Oncken's 4 rules of monkey management come in.
Ooh, sounds intriguing. Tell me more.
We'll dive into those rules in just a bit, but first let's take a quick break. All right, so before the break, we were talking about those pesky monkeys and how they can take over our lives.
Yeah, and we were just about to get to Onken's 4 rules of monkey management.
But actually, before we dive into those rules, I want to bring in another key insight from Oncken.
Oh, laid it on me.
He wrote another book called Managing Management Time.
Catchy title.
Right. And in that book, he introduces this concept of 3 types of organizational time.
3 types. Okay, I'm all ears.
The first type is boss-imposed time.
So that's all the time we spend on tasks and projects that come directly from our boss?
Exactly. Things like attending meetings, responding to emails, completing assignments.
The stuff we have to do to keep the boss happy.
Precisely. And it's important to remember that keeping your boss informed and in the loop does take time.
True. If you try to ignore their requests or just hope they'll go away.
It often backfires, creating even more work and stress in the long run.
So it's kind of like preventative maintenance with your boss.
Exactly. A little time invested up front can save a lot of headaches later on.
Makes sense.
Oh.
Okay, so that's boss-imposed time. What's the next type?
The next one is system-imposed time.
System-imposed. What does that mean exactly?
These are the tasks and activities that are dictated by the systems and structures of our organization.
Oh, okay. So all those forms, procedures, policies, bureaucratic hoops we have to jump through.
Exactly. Think about all those team meetings reports, approvals.
Ugh, the bane of my existence. It feels like a constant battle against red tape and paperwork.
I hear you. But here's the thing. While it's tempting to try to circumvent those systems,
So like find shortcuts or workarounds.
right, doing so often creates more work and stress in the long run.
You know what? That's so true. I've definitely learned that lesson the hard way.
Oncken actually tells this funny story in the book about a manager who tries to cut corners.
Oh, I love his stories. What happened?
This manager needed a new chair. His old one was broken and uncomfortable.
Been there.
Right. So instead of going through the proper channels to request a new chair.
He tried to fix it himself.
Exactly. And he ended up spending way more time and energy trying to rig up this janky old chair.
Then it would take him to just submit a request and wait for a new one.
Exactly. Sometimes it's just easier to work within the system, even if it feels inefficient.
Okay, so we've talked about boss-imposed time and system-imposed time. What's the third type?
The third type is the good stuff. Self-imposed time.
Self-imposed time. Ooh, that sounds promising. Tell me more.
This is where things get really interesting because this is the area where we have the most control.
So this is the time we get to choose how to spend.
Exactly. It's the time we dedicate to activities that are truly meaningful to us.
The stuff that aligns with our goals, our values, our passions.
Exactly. Think about those creative projects, the strategic thinking, the relationship building.
The activities that energize us and make our work fulfilling.
Right. It's the time when we're not just working in the business, but on the business.
I love that distinction.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. It often feels like self-imposed time is the first to go when things get busy.
That's so true. We get caught up in putting out fires and responding to urgent requests.
And all of a sudden it's 5 p.m. and we haven't even touched those important but not urgent tasks.
Exactly. And that's where that concept of opportunity cost comes back into play.
Remind me what that is again?
It's the idea that every time we choose to spend time on one thing, we're missing out on the opportunity to spend time on something else.
So when we allow boss-imposed time, system-imposed time, or even those pesky monkeys.
To dominate our schedules, self-imposed time is often the first casualty.
Which is a shame because, as you said, that's the most valuable time of all.
Precisely. It's the time that allows us to grow, learn, and make a real impact.
Okay, so how do we protect that precious self-imposed time?
That's where Oncken's insights about monkey management and the different types of time really come together.
Ooh, I'm starting to see the connection.
By mastering those 4 rules of monkey management, we can start to reclaim some of that self-imposed time.
But there's still boss-imposed time and system-imposed time to contend with.
Right. It's not about trying to eliminate those demands altogether.
Because that's probably unrealistic in most work environments.
Exactly. It's about finding ways to manage them effectively so they don't take over completely.
So it's all about creating a more harmonious ecosystem within our work lives.
Exactly. And the more skilled we become at managing those monkeys and reclaiming that self-imposed time, the more effectively we can tend to the other areas as well.
It's like a virtuous cycle.
Exactly. And you know what? Self-imposed time actually breaks down into 2 subcategories.
Oh, tell me more.
We've got discretionary time and subordinate imposed time.
Well, we already talked about subordinate imposed time. That's all those monkeys our team members trying to toss our way.
You got it. So that means discretionary time is the time we have left over after we've successfully deflected those incoming monkeys.
Okay, so discretionary time is the real golden nugget here, right? The time we can truly dedicate to those activities that light us up and move us closer to our bigger goals.
Exactly. But think about it, those passion projects, the strategic thinking, the brainstorming sessions, the time for building relationships and mentoring others. It's all discretionary time.
It's the time when we're not just reacting, but proactively shaping our work and our future.
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling inspired already. But I have to admit, knowing where to start can be a bit overwhelming.
I hear you. That's why in the final part of our deep dive, we'll be sharing some practical strategies and actionable steps you can take to reclaim your time and achieve that balance you're looking for. So we've talked about monkeys and time management in a work context.
Right. But it's got me thinking about how these ideas apply to other areas of life, too.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about work.
Right. I mean, those honey-do lists at home can start to feel like a whole troop of monkeys themselves.
You're so right. Think about all the volunteer commitments, family obligations, even just trying to maintain a social life.
It's like a constant juggling act. And it can feel so overwhelming sometimes.
Exactly. But the good news is that these principles we've been talking about can help.
So it's like having a secret weapon for taking back control. Not just of our work schedule, but of our entire lives.
I love that. And the best part is it's not about working harder, but about working smarter.
Right. It's about understanding those dynamics. Recognizing those monkeys that have subtly taken up residence on our backs.
And finding ways to gently but firmly return them to their rightful owners.
Okay, so we're almost out of time. But before we wrap up this deep dive, any final words of wisdom for our listeners?
Absolutely. Think about all the monkeys in your life, both at work and at home.
Okay, I'm thinking.
Now ask yourself, which ones are truly yours? And which ones have you inadvertently picked up along the way?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm definitely guilty of picking up some stray monkeys.
I think we all are. But once you start to see those monkeys, you can start to make conscious choices about which ones you're willing to carry.
And which ones you need to hand back.
Exactly. It's all about taking back control of your time and your energy.
So you can focus on the things that truly matter to you. I love it. Well, this has been an amazing deep dive. So insightful and thought-provoking.
It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
And to our listeners out there, we hope you've enjoyed this conversation as much as we have.
Remember, mastering monkey management and time management in general is a journey, not a destination.
So be patient with yourselves. Keep learning. Keep experimenting. And most importantly,
keep reclaiming your time.
That's it for today's deep dive. Thanks for tuning in.